Hello, everyone, and welcome to our August 2024 webinar, Aging in Place with Parkinson's. I'm Donna Greening, Parkinson Canada's Education and Program Innovation Coordinator. From coast to coast, Parkinson Canada acknowledges the ancestral and unceded territories of Inuit, Métis, and First Nations peoples. To access closed captioning, click on the CC Captions button and then click on Show Subtitle. We are always grateful for the expert speakers who join us to share their knowledge during our webinars. If you have questions about today's topic after the conclusion of the webinar, please contact your healthcare provider or Parkinson Canada's Care Connect team. Any resources mentioned today will be included in our follow-up email, along with a link to a recording of the webinar, so there's no need to take any notes. Please submit any questions you have for our presenters by typing them in the Q&A window found at the bottom of your webinar window. This will help us monitor them more effectively. Please avoid using the chat window to submit questions. Feel free to use that chat window to say hello or talk amongst yourselves. When the survey ends, please take a moment to fill out our survey, which we use to evaluate our programming, ensuring that we're delivering content that's relevant to the Parkinson's community. And now let's get started. Michelle Mooney graduated with a master's in occupational therapy from the University of Manitoba, following her bachelor's degree in psychology. She has been working at Winnipeg's Movement Disorder Clinic since March of 2019, bringing with her experience in geriatrics and long-term care, as well as experience with return to work planning. Michelle provides a variety of rehabilitation assessment services for the clients, including wheelchair and seating prescriptions and functional, cognitive, and home assessments. Over the years, Michelle has enjoyed participating in community events to support Parkinson's awareness and has provided education to various Parkinson's support groups. Welcome, Michelle.
Okay, hi Donna, thank you so much. I am just going to share my screen here with everyone and hopefully you can see it. And we will be ready to go. Let me know if that doesn't look okay, but otherwise I'm going to assume it does. So thanks, Donna. As mentioned, my name is Michelle Mooney, and I am the occupational therapist at the Movement Disorder Clinic in Winnipeg. Donna has asked us here today to discuss aging in place with Parkinson's disease. Before we get started, I wanted to just explain my role at the Movement Disorder Clinic. I work as part of a multidisciplinary team. Our team is made up of 4 neurologists, 1 nurse, 1 speech language pathologist, an occupational therapist, a physiotherapist, a dietitian, a social worker, and a deep brain stimulation clinician. We see clients every 6 months or so, or more often as needed. As an OT, I have the opportunity to see the clients in their home or in the clinic. Our team works together to try to ease the symptoms and ultimately best support our clients living with Parkinson's. So, what is an occupational therapist? An occupational therapist helps people with activities of daily living. This may include tasks like getting dressed, bathing, and hygiene, as well as the instrumental activities of daily living, which includes cooking, cleaning, money management, and other household tasks. People often think an occupational therapist helps you to return to work, but in reality, we help people with all things that are important to them in their day-to-day lives. So we try to make things easier and safer for our clients. Some specific ways an occupational therapist would do this would be by helping to prevent falls and helping you recover from them if they do occur, developing strategies for dressing, grooming, and hygiene. This may include equipment or adaptations, adding resources such as home care or someone to clean your home or help with your yard. However, another large part of my role includes conversations around the home environment. How can we stay safe here? Do we need to add equipment? Do we need renovations, or do we need to consider a move? Now, before we go much further, let's just back up a step and discuss what do we mean when we say aging in place. Aging in place is having the ability to live in one's own home or community safely, independently, and comfortably, regardless of age, income, or ability level. While most people would love to stay in the home they've always lived in, aging in that home isn't always safe and feasible. Being able to age in place involves thoughtful consideration of your physical spaces and your activities of daily living to help you continue to live in that home environment. An OT can help you devise strategies and skills to achieve this goal. Of course, it would be wonderful to stay in our home forever, but there are a number of factors that must be considered. Let's briefly talk about some of the barriers to aging in place. So there's health and safety risks. We need to consider both the aging process as well as the physical and cognitive changes that may come with Parkinson's. For example, will stairs always be safe with the expected changes to our balance and mobility? Will our judgment allow for safe decisions within our home? We also have to consider the financial implications. Can we afford to renovate, add equipment like lifts or ramps? Can we afford to hire for things such as yard work and cleaning? Will our family be able to help us if we are unable to hire? We need to consider the isolation that could come with staying in one's own home. Aging in place can be lonely, especially if you aren't as mobile as you once were. Unless you actively leave your home, the lack of connection can affect mood and overall well-being. We also know that exercise is medicine when it comes to slowing the progression of Parkinson's disease. If you have difficulty leaving your home, you may have less access to activities, programs, and exercise. With that being said, of course, there's many benefits to staying in your home. They include the familiarity and emotional attachment to the home. You may have raised your family there or otherwise placed great sentimental value on your home. You know where items are. You know where the furniture is placed if you need to reach out if you're feeling unsteady. Another benefit to staying in your home may be financial, as you are not incurring new payments or debt and perhaps have already paid off your home. In our homes, we tend to feel that we have control of our environment or the way things are set up. This gives us a greater sense of independence and autonomy. Certainly our homes, whether a house, apartment, or condo, will tend to have more indoor and outdoor space comparatively. We'll now talk more specifically about home modifications, considerations, and equipment. So these would apply if you were to stay in a home you've been in for many years or are looking to move somewhere new. And if it is available to you, I'd advocate for asking an OT to come for a home visit. This would typically involve looking through the home and making suggestions for current needs as well as future needs. Let's start by discussing the general home layout. Ideally, the main living space would be on one level, including a full bathroom if possible. This will conserve energy and reduce fall risk without having to climb stairs for basic necessities. If able, consider leveling out floors, such as removing high thresholds between rooms and leveling out sunken-in spaces. We would also want to consider space to turn with a walker or a wheelchair, having at least a 5 by 5 foot space to maneuver in the living room, kitchen, bedroom, and bathroom is advised. It's also recommended we leave space by an entryway to accommodate a chair or a bench to safely put on shoes and jackets. It is often recommended to sit down when putting on these items. Hallways should be well lit and a minimum of 36 inches wide. Consider the lighting throughout the home, including the hallways, to minimize dark or shadowy areas. Try to minimize glare. Consider installing motion lights in bedrooms and bathrooms for navigating in the dark. Choose flooring that is non-skid, preferably having the same flooring throughout the entire space with minimal thresholds. Avoid clutter on the ground and non-necessary throw rugs or mats. These suggestions are of particular importance as thresholds and clutter can worsen Parkinson's-related issues such as freezing of gait, instability, and fall risk. I'm going to go into some more detail on the next page in regards to entryways. So entryways should be accessible at least 36 inches wide, having at least one doorway with a cover that requires no steps. So this would be in our ideal home setup. However, that might not always be possible. So here are some alternatives. A platform lift can be installed. This may help us stay in our home longer. They can be installed indoors or outdoors, and it saves space for individuals who may be unable to use the stairs. Ramps, as shown in the second picture, can be built for a variety of reasons, including to support wheelchair or walker users and people with mobility difficulties. Ramps can be permanent or temporary and made out of many different materials. Though both of these options can be pricey, there are some options that help cover costs, at least now in Manitoba, depending on income level. Other considerations would be threshold ramps, which can make a door or space more accessible, such as on the picture on the right. A commonly used option for this product is called excellent ramps. So these click together, they can bridge a threshold inside or outside. I've seen people use them to level out a shower. So a threshold ramp would be right up to the shower edge, and then a flat space could be used inside the shower. So these can be used inside, outside for showers. They can get wet. So this is a really good option as well. When we talk about entryways, we have to talk about exiting these doorways and entering these doorways as well. I quickly wanted to just discuss some options for when someone lives in a condo or an apartment with a heavy door. I've had many clients who cannot hold the door open long enough to safely move through it with a wheelchair or a walker. I've had some success with asking buildings to remove the springs off that main door, but if that is not possible, then there are some options, such as in the first picture, the door magnets. Depending on the weight of the door, this can be added to most doors. There's lots of different products on Amazon that have different strengths of magnets that can work as a really good option to hold that door open. In the second picture, it's an automatic door opener. So these can be purchased again online on Amazon, and they can be added to certain doors to make it easier to exit, or different versions of door stops. So as seen here in picture 3, this is a door stop. I'm going to go to my next slide and just show you a quick little video. Hopefully this works.
This is the Fat Ivan door stop. Designed by emergency first responders, it actually installs at the hinge instead of down low, pulls up easily so there's no bending, and holds really heavy doors open to 90 degrees. A great option for mobility aid users.
So often we see the door stops that you have to wedge into the bottom between the door and the floor, and then we have to bend over to get them. So I like this as an option to not have to bend over and to still be able to hold that door open. The next area we're going to talk about is the kitchen. So whether we're considering renovating again our space or moving into another home that allows us more space and accessibility, these are some things I would consider. So do we have room to move around safely? Can we bring our walker right to the fridge with us? Can we sit on a walker at the counter to cut up items? Is there enough space to store commonly used items on shelves in the pantry or refrigerator that are easy to reach, or on hooks instead of in the cupboard, like in the bottom picture? We would want to have our items we need to access stored between shoulder and waist height, ideally. It is recommended that we downsize large items such as heavy milk jugs into smaller milk containers and replace large pots with smaller, lightweight ones. There are many options for special tools such as forks and spoons with easy to grip handles, or knives with that require a rocking motion rather than a sawing motion. So that's in that top right corner. This could be a whole nother conversation that would have to be saved for another day, but there's lots of tools out there like this. If we were looking at renovations as seen in the top left picture there, consider having a countertop lowered to make it wheelchair or chair accessible. Sitting to work at the kitchen counter can save a lot of energy and reduce our fall risk. Consider the location of ovens, stoves, microwaves, and other small appliances. It is often easier to access a microwave on a counter rather than having to reach overhead to pull out heavy or hot items. We're going to move on here to talk about the bathroom. So the ideal bathroom setup would include a walk-in shower with a low or zero threshold. As you can see in the top left picture, this would include permanently installed grab bars, a removable seat, and a removable shower head. A removable seat gives us the freedom to move it as much as needed, whereas with a built-in seat, that's not possible. A shower curtain versus glass shower doors are also easier for access and to potentially allow a caregiver to assist us if needed, as well as the added risk a glass shower door could cause if we were to fall into it. The second picture is of a transfer bench. This would be an option if a walk-in style shower is not available and stepping in and out of the tub were to become unsafe. We could sit on the edge and then slowly scoot over and lift our legs over the edge while in a seated position. The bottom two pictures are of other alternatives, such as a roll-in portable shower that can be placed anywhere in the home with a water source. The one on the bottom right is the blue chair, is a lift that can lower someone in and out of the tub. I just wanted to give some additional options to the walk-in shower because sometimes renovations aren't possible, but it does not mean that showering is off limits. Often a creative solution can be found. These are, of course, not all the options, but a few of the possibilities. Grab bars are another item that can help us stay safe in the bathroom. It would be almost impossible to have too many. We commonly recommend them for support in the shower, near the toilet, or by the sink, depending on the layout of the bathroom and other equipment available. The top picture shows here someone holding on to a towel rack. Towel racks are always placed exactly where we need them to be, but they're not often secured into the wall as well as a grab bar. So by simply replacing your towel rack with a grab bar, which of course you could still hang your towel on, would make it much safer and reduce your fall risk. There are many other versatile grab bars out there as well, as you can see in the bottom two pictures, one that holds your toilet paper but can still be used safely as a grab bar, as well as a shower holder there in the corner that also can safely be used as a grab bar. The last item I wanted to mention is the clamp-on tub rail. This allows us extra security when stepping in and out of the tub without having to use tools or install into our tub surround. They simply go over the edge of the bathtub and twist to secure. A couple of slides ago, I mentioned general home layout and having a bathroom on one level. Ideally, this bathroom would have some sort of safety equipment for the toilet. The first two pictures show options for making the toilet easier and safer to use. This will in turn help us to remain at home longer, ensuring we can independently get off the toilet while limiting fall risk. But what if it isn't possible? What if we don't have a toilet on the level we spend most of our day on? There are many options we can add. So we could use a handheld urinal as shown in blue in the bottom picture, or a commode which we could put at the bedside or even next to a living room chair if needed. Again, these are not all the options, but a few of the more commonly used ones. Next, I'm going to talk about the bedroom. What would we be looking for in an ideal bedroom? First off, lots of open space, ideally no carpet, and a clear pathway from doorway to bed and bed to bathroom, allowing for the full and safe use of a walker or a wheelchair if needed. When considering an ideal bed, the height of the bed and the mattress are of significant importance. The mattress should be firm, as a soft mattress tends to be more challenging to move around on and to stand from. As a general guide in terms of bed height, you want to be able to sit on the edge of the bed with your feet flat on the ground and your hips at least at the same level or slightly higher than your knees. As a rule of thumb, the lower the bed, the easier it is to get into because we can just kind of fall into it. But the higher the bed is, and the easier it is to get out of. So we want to try to find a happy medium. Of course, an adjustable bed can often help us achieve both of these positions. Other ways to change the height of the bed would be adding blocks under the legs of the bed to make it higher, or removing or replacing the box spring to make it lower. If getting out of bed is still difficult with a firm mattress and optimal bed height, it may be worth considering equipment like a bed rail or a transfer pole. Another item we can use is silk or satin sheets. This makes it easier to move around in bed, and these can be purchased from stores you would normally get bedding or purchased as a specialty item online. For example, the one in the bottom left corner is called comfort linen, which are shown here with the silk square in the center. So that allows for trunk mobility without the risk of sliding out of the bed. Adding equipment as discussed to allow for independence with bed transfers and mobility will help you remain in your home longer. The last thing I wanted to discuss today was the idea of lifts. I often get asked what would happen if a client's family can no longer physically help them in and out of bed, chairs, or the shower. In this case, I would introduce the topic of lifts. Here in Manitoba, and I believe in some other provinces, lifts are provided through home care at no cost or are available as a rental. The benefit of the lift would be to ensure safe transfers and reduce caregiver strain. Examples of the lifts are shown here. Picture 1 is a sit-to-stand lift. This allows someone to remain in a seated position and be moved from one seated position to another, such as from a bed to the toilet. It has wheels and moves easily around a room. Picture 2 is a ceiling track lift. These can be installed or pressure mounted, and they allow for easy movement from bed to a wheelchair or even a wheelchair into a shower or bathtub. Picture 3 is similar to the ceiling track lift, but can be moved from room to room to allow transfers in different spaces throughout the house. All 3 of these options would need a caregiver to operate, but with training, spouses and family can learn to utilize them. Lifts can be a very useful tool to age in place longer. Lastly, I'd like to leave you with 3 brief takeaways from this presentation. If you have access to a multidisciplinary team, use it. Ask for an OT to do a home visit to help with current and future planning. This may be offered through your health region and available through your family doctor or neurologist. If you live rurally, there may be an option to do this over Teams or a Zoom call. The second takeaway is that there are often many solutions to the same problem. Not everyone's solutions will be the same, whether this is for equipment, services, or other supports. And finally, aging in place may look different from person to person, but the goal is the same: to modify your environment and support system to live safely and independently in your home of choice for as long as possible. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Michelle. As people with Parkinson's age in place, we know that walking aids become a necessity. And I really love that doorstop that goes right by the hinges. And we will be sharing a link in our follow-up email. It looks so much easier to use. And I really like the variety of grab bars. Some of them I've never seen, like that corner one. That's really some really great ideas that you've shared. Now I'd like to introduce Kelly Williams. Kelly graduated from the University of Manitoba Faculty of Nursing in 2002 with the CNA certification in gerontology. In 2012, she joined the team at the Movement Disorder Clinic as a clinical resource nurse. Her role at the clinic consists mostly of working with individuals who have Parkinson's disease, helping them learn about the disease process and how to live well with it. She is also the coordinator of the Advanced Therapies program at the clinic, research coordinator, and educator to other healthcare professionals about Parkinson's disease. Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you very much, Donna. Okay, we'll get started. I'm just going to start to share my screen. So, what I'm going to be talking about today is aging in place, but generally, how do you know when it's time to reconsider this? Again, my name is Kelly. I am the clinical resource nurse at the Movement Disorder Clinic here in Winnipeg. And a lot of my role, as Donna had mentioned, is helping people cope with their day-to-day, educating them on a lot of their disease process and how to work with it. So how do you know when it's time to consider? We're going to talk a little bit about living alone. We're going to talk a little bit about caregiver burnout, cognitive changes, and some support systems and technology that may help. There is a lot of overlap as well. None of us live in silos. So we'll kind of get through some of it, and some of it might sound familiar. So first thing we're going to talk about is living alone. This essentially means that there's nobody living within the dwelling of that person with Parkinson's, regardless of how good their support network is. This is what I mean by living alone. Number of benefits to living alone. There's independence, there's freedom, privacy of choices, privacy in general, own routines, preferences of lifestyles. You have that peace and quiet, the sense of accomplishment of still living alone, flexibility, spontaneity, and that personalization and a sense of self, of comfort. But there's also a lot of challenges. We have financial support issues, looking after the bills, the household management, managing your medications on your own, your personal hygiene and dressing, meals, cleaning, maintenance and upkeep, security, loneliness, and that motivation for exercise. So when these challenges generally are present for people living alone, whether they live with or without Parkinson's, but with Parkinson's, we do have those added challenges of that changing and increasing disability over time. There's also the point of sometimes there's changing of cognition without the insight of seeing that change, which brings up a number of safety concerns. So we'll talk a bit about how to work with these challenges and when to start to think about needing more help, and when to start being a lot more objective and looking at ourselves or trusting the opinion of the people of our support network. So if you're looking at your financial support or your bills and household management, you might want to look into different resources that are available to you. For example, a social worker, they will have access to a number of different programs that might be helpful in managing your day-to-day. There's also a number of systematic steps in managing a house. Write them down, and then you can check it off and as it kind of goes, so you know that you've caught everything that you need to go with through. Consider a power of attorney, because a power of attorney is somebody who can help you when it's getting too hard to manage those financial situations. When looking after your medications, make a list. Include everything on that list, including your Parkinson medication, of course, and the times you take them, but also any supplements you take, any over-the-counter medications that you take, any medications that you put in your mouth should be on this list. Consider the idea of pill timers if you're having troubles remembering your pills on time. Bubble packs or blister packs are a really good tool to use. Like, did I take that 2 o'clock medication? Well, you know what? Now it's out of my blister pack, so I know I did. Maybe working towards monitoring your effect and documenting this so you don't forget how this medication has been helping you or not helping you for that matter. And home care is another option to try and help you work with your medications. If you're considering the idea of your personal hygiene, dressing, or your meal making, routine is really helpful for this situation. When you follow a same routine from day to day, then it becomes that habit forming so that when things are harder, you still have that routine and it's easier to follow. But take objective looks at your capabilities with that dressing and hygiene. Are you able to still do it? How much time, how much energy does it take for you to get dressed and ready in the morning? Have you considered adaptive clothing that might make it easier? Home care might be helpful in the sense of getting help getting dressed and ready in the morning or at the end of the day for that matter. Other things to consider about being objective of your capabilities are your meals, such as planning, grocery lists, ability to get to the store. Have you considered delivery services, prepping and cooking the meals? Maybe we need to start considering meal delivery services such as Meals on Wheels. Looking in your support network, maybe they can make some meals for you. And there's also the point of considering something like assisted living facilities, which are essentially independent living, but somebody else looks after the meals for you. How are you doing with your cleaning, the laundry, the dishes, the bathroom, things such as that? What is the difficulty level of it? How much time and energy does it take to do them? Maybe it's time to consider hiring housekeeping or private home care to look after some of that or help within your support network. Then we're looking at upkeeping and the maintenance of your home, such as leaks in the bathroom or mowing the lawn, shoveling the snow, things like that. What is your capability? What is the safety level of doing it? Maybe you shouldn't be lifting 10 pounds of snow on a shovel. Maybe it's something that you need to hire the local kid down the road to help you out with it, or a company, or looking into your support network for things such as that as well. Security, I mean, that's a big deal too. Safety in your home when it comes to alarm systems or smoke detectors or carbon monoxide detectors. Are you able to call for help if it is needed? Are you able to get to safety if that is a requirement? Maybe consider the idea of daily or weekly check-ins with your support network to make sure that things are still running fairly smoothly that way. Also got to consider motivation for exercise. We know it is the one and the only thing to slow down the disease process. It's vitally important to our day-to-day. What is stopping you from doing that? Is it your depression? Is it apathy? Is it fatigue? Lean on your support network. Get yourself a walking buddy or a walking group, or attend group sessions. Schedule it. This is the best way I can get a person to do their exercises on a day-to-day, is you sit there saying, well, you're scheduled for it, so we're going to do it either way. Don't cancel. Okay. Often when you go towards groups, then you're less likely to cancel because other people will see you there. And it's a great socialization opportunity. Safety with your exercise. Make sure you're looking into that as well. Is walking down the street at 10 o'clock at night a really safe idea? Is walking on the ice a safe one either? Find ways to manage it, such as seated exercises, online exercises, group exercises that are in a facility. One thing I will say is to seek intervention and treatment early for different things such as your depression, your apathy, and your fatigue, because that will stop you from exercising as much as you need to and should. And it's very important, as I said before, to be exercising regularly. Loneliness is something else we also have to look at when living alone. And it is complicated by many of the non-motor symptoms, such again as depression, anxiety, apathy, and fatigue. Social isolation also is relatively subjective. One can feel quite socially isolated, but actually not feel lonely. And one can be lonely while being even socially connected. So you really have to figure out what works best for you to reduce some of that loneliness. Loneliness does tend to result in poor physical and cognitive health. So socialization is the absolute best form of exercise for your memory and your mood. So it's really important that you're socializing on a regular basis. Again, seek intervention and treatment early. Look at treating the depression, anxiety, and apathy. Engage yourself in different activities or volunteer and get to that support network. Seek out group entertainment or support groups or communities, things like that, that will help manage some of that loneliness. So when you're living alone with Parkinson's, you need to start really reconsidering aging in place. Stay objective and listen to your supporters. Maybe they have a better idea of what's going on with you. When safety and security is a concern, that's when we start to need to reconsider. When it's honestly too hard or too expensive, whether we're looking at dressing, meals, medication reminders, things like that, when it starts to get too hard, that's when we need to start to reconsider. And if loneliness becomes too much, do not wait until it is way too hard. Pre-plan so you can have control over your choices. The next thing we're going to talk about is care partner burnout. The care partner is the person who gives care to the people who need to be taken care of, or they need a little bit more help taking care of themselves. This could be a spouse, it could be a child, it can be a niece or a nephew, it could be a friend, it could be a parent, whatever that might be. When you're looking at care partner stress, that is when you have emotional and physical strain of caregiving. It manifests with exhaustion, anger, sometimes rage or guilt from resulting from unrelieved caring. Then we go into care partner burnout. This is a state of physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion and distress that includes depression and agony, anxiety, very, very intense emotions. When you feel burnt out, your attitude may change, negatively affecting the way you're able to care for your loved one. You start to change from being a positive person, positive caring person, to a negative and unconcerned one. This can be very dangerous for both yourself as well as the person you're caring for. So often care partner burnout is what makes aging in place no longer feasible. So the way we look at this is prevention. Prevention is what is main key. It's really hard to fix care partner burnout, but preventing it might be able to. Get the right help at the right time. It's really important to involve home care or support systems early on. Learn how to cope with your feelings effectively. They're very strong feelings and you often will need help with them. Be objective again. Know where your strengths are and when you need help and where the resources are. Realistic caregiver management is also important. Understand what your needs are. How are you doing right now? Prioritize your needs, because if you're not able to, who's going to look after the person? And think about that contingency plan. If you're not able to, who is going to look after that person? And keep yourself healthy. Recognize that caregiver stress early and learn how to relieve it. When looking at the symptoms, we have the physical burdens of fatigue, exhaustion, problems with sleep, problems with endurance, the psychological burden of irritability, anger, depression, that inability to concentrate, or even difficulty with your memory. You become so socially withdrawn, or you socially isolate yourself. A loss of intimacy is very common when you're often in that care partner stress. And there's sometimes a financial burden that can happen, the loss of employment, difficulty in maintaining your work responsibilities as well. When we're looking at relieving that care partner stress, some ways we can do it. Number one is educate yourself. Educate yourself on what the condition is, medications and treatments and side effects. Let yourself know what is available in your community, what different supports are there, and how to be a part of the care rather than forced to just do things and be a taskmaster. Communicate effectively. We're talking with healthcare professionals regarding your needs and your changes, and with your loved one, the person you're caring for, because their needs and your needs need to be discussed, and also continuing with that intimacy. And maintain your physical and mental well-being. Stop those negative health behaviors such as smoking and drinking. Consider consistent physical activity. There's actually studies to show that a care partner who exercises regularly is able to care for a person with Parkinson's longer and much better. And that person with Parkinson's does better in the long term. So walk daily, dancing regularly, yoga, just 15, 20 minutes a day will be very helpful. Make sure to have times for yourself. Make sure it is guilt-free time for yourself. You'll need this, and it's really important that you have it on a regular basis. Consider your diet. It should be very nutritious because you want to maintain your general physical health as well. Maintain your psychological well-being as well. There's acceptance of the situation. This is where you need that objectivity of what is going on. What actually are your sources of stress? Talk about the disease and acceptance of the disease process and the prognosis. And then allow yourself to live in the moment and make decisions which are best for both of you versus looking too far in the future and not considering what is happening right now. Take that break, whether we're looking at respite from home care, whether we're looking at going on a vacation with your friend, and putting your spouse into respite care for a bit, whether you're looking at leisure activities, things like that. Consider counseling. Counseling can be very, very helpful in that talk therapy and helping you stop some of those negative thoughts and just kind of get that kind of out. Maintain your sense of humor. Things are kind of hard, and it's easy to get down in the moment. Keep that sense of humor going. Routine, again, is very, very helpful in managing your day-to-day, and then there's no kind of surprises going on. Participate in relaxation activities and build that local support team system for yourself. So care partner burnout happens from a significant time in caregiver stress. It can be dangerous and common reason to consider not aging in place. Prevention is huge, trying to prevent a person from going from caregiver stress to burnout. Be objective of where your stress levels are. Work on ways to relieve it and understand what your limits are. It's very personal what causes a care partner to become stressed and when it progresses to burnout, or how to relieve it and when enough is enough. Support systems are there to help. It helps with prevention and decision making. And make sure you're looking at guilt-free decisions. There's only so much that any one person can take. So if you've done everything and you're burnt out, you can guilt-free make that decision. Cognitive change is something else I'm going to talk about, and it tends to be a very strong determinant for the ability to age in place. There is a spectrum of cognitive changes going from mild cognitive impairment to dementia, and it generally can show as a mild effect on your daily functioning or to the inability for independent living. We're going to talk a little bit about living alone with cognitive changes, the impacts of care partners, and those neuropsychiatric symptom and their impacts. So living alone, this is a unique set of challenges. You're trying to manage the entire household and maintenance challenges with memory impairment. It tends to take a lot longer, harder to do, and things tend to get missed. So you tend to be more reliant on informal care partners such as neighbors or friends or extended family. This might be a point in time when you need to consider invoking your power of attorney so that things aren't being missed. An introduction to those outside supports for your daily care, such as public and private home care, meal delivery services, considering the idea of a public trustee if you don't have a power of attorney in place. Again, living alone with cognitive changes tends to be that strong indicator of no longer being able to age in place. Cognitive changes with your care partner, these again are a strong determinant of increasing caregiver stress. In fact, the presence and severity are directly correlated with increased caregiver burden. It's disruptive. You end up with sleep disturbances, ability to look after yourself, your mental health suffers through it. You're not even able to get to your own medical appointments. So it's quite disruptive. So specific interventions can be helpful, such as treating some of the cognitive impairment or depression or anxiety. But there is a significant increase to caregiver burden, leading to the inability to age in place. Neuropsychiatric symptoms, this includes things like depression, anxiety, apathy, hallucinations, and psychosis. Although common within Parkinson's, it is most common, and upwards of 80% common in those who already have some cognitive impairment. And care partners who even have one of these neuropsychiatric symptoms, even at a moderate level, along with the cognitive changes, can cause severe distress and care partner stress. So targeted treatment again can be helpful, whether we're looking at treating the depression or anxiety, but really this frequently leads to not being able to age in place. So cognitive changes are a strong determinant of whether a person with Parkinson's is able to age in place. Living alone, we really need the support of or support network. Caregiver burnout is very common when you're adding neuropsychiatric factors. And caring for that person with cognitive changes is difficult, and aging in place may no longer be appropriate. We need a team of people to help when you're looking into those cognitive changes, sometimes 24-hour care, and we all have our limits. So some support systems and technology. Now, a support system is a group of people who provide emotional and practical support for a person in need. And then we're going to look a little bit at those technological support systems. First of all, your support system are your family, your friends, your healthcare teams, support groups, your church groups, things like that. They can offer tangible support, such as concrete ways to help others, such as getting them to appointments or making meals for people. There's informational support, such as coming to education sessions like this, different education that you might get from your healthcare providers, or looking up things like Parkinson Canada that has a number of resources to work with. There's companionships, adding social situations and emotional support, getting out to that bridge club regularly, right? So support systems really allow for individuals to stay in place longer by having this in place. And it helps those living alone, especially. It helps the care partner allow for better self-care and prevents that burnout. So support systems are vital in this, in trying to age in place. Now, technologically, there is more recent developments happening with it, and it is growing all the time as our technology improves. There's personal fall detection systems such as Lifeline. It can call for help, whether you're looking at the ambulance or you're looking at the family or your neighbor to help get back up. Doesn't need the internet, which is kind of nice for individuals who have that limitation. Internal call systems such as an intercom, so that you can be downstairs doing your Zoom exercise while your partner is upstairs lying down for their nap, and if they need something, they can contact you that way. Home assistants such as Google Home or Alexa, actually pretty fantastic for managing the day-to-day. There's hands-free calling with that, medication reminders, shopping lists, appointment and schedule reminders. There's many different ways to use things like that to work with. There's also the point of social network connections, such as senior-friendly tablets, easier to connect with family, to video chat or text with the grandkids or great-grandkids for that matter. It helps with medication reminders and appointment reminders or calling for help when needed. It also, if you have worries about wanderers, there's a lot of technology to help with that part of it, such as door alarms or motion sensors and room monitors. Some things have GPS tracking systems, such as the Apple tags, those things, or having a watch that has a GPS tracker on it, things like that. Some of the fall detection things also have GPS trackers on them. Door decals to let them know that no, that's a bookshelf, not the door out, or gates, physical things to prevent you from getting out, doorknob covers, floor mat and bed alarms so that you are made aware that the person has gotten out of bed or has left the bedroom or whatever the case might be. There's a lot of options that way. So support systems are important for aging in place to do the things one cannot do on their own. We all need help every now and again. A good support network improves that quality of life, lessens depression and anxiety, and improves your mental health in general, lessens that caregiver burden as well. So who is in your support network? Who look at formalizing your support network and get it in place before it is needed, such as who would take you to your appointments, who is your power of attorney or your health proxy, and learn the technology while learning is a bit easier. And technology can be instrumental in improving that ability to age in place. So, in summary, there is honestly no perfect time to consider changing the place of which to age, but it's a very personal choice, but you really do need to be objective of your situation. Look at the parameters that become barriers, such as living alone, caregiver burnout, cognitive changes, your ability and accessibility of support networks. Know that there are many resources available to help you make that decision and to help implement those choices. Recognize that the decision to no longer age in place is not a failure either. It is difficult, but we need to maintain those guilt-free limits for all of our health in general. And that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you so much, Donna.
Thank you so much, Kelly. That's so much great information. Knowing how to objectively assess your abilities or those of your loved one and ensuring the right support systems are in place are incredibly important to being able to age safely in place. Now, Kelly mentioned loneliness and support groups. If you're watching this webinar and you want to connect with the Parkinson's community members where you live or virtually, Parkinson Canada's Care Connect team can advise you about options that work for you. We have groups for people living with Parkinson's and group for care partners. So contact us to find a group that's a right fit for you. We are now going to move into some questions that have been submitted. I want to start by saying, though, that we've gotten quite a few questions about who to contact to either access home care services or financial support for home modifications. Because this webinar is for everyone across Canada, the answers are going to vary a lot by region. So in our follow-up email, we are including links for every single province and territory to get you started finding those resources where you live. So moving on to some of the other questions that were submitted. One is, would steps in your house present a big problem or should I consider moving? I'm not sure which one of you want to address that.
I can speak to that. So, I mean, often people do have difficulty with steps at some point. Often early on, we find that steps, because they are so obvious that we need to keep our feet moving, people actually do really well on steps. So they'll climb the stairs well, and then all of a sudden they're walking down the hallway, and that's when we see that freezing or our inability to take that next step. So steps aren't a problem for everybody, but at some point, whether it's just that it uses so much energy to get up the steps, whether it's that we are losing our balance and it makes it a little bit more tricky. Ideally, we would want to be in a space without steps. But yeah,
Thank you.
it can be a little bit different for everybody.
Thank you. The next question is, does dizziness and lightheadedness come with Parkinson's? And what is a solution for moving safely around the home if you're experiencing dizziness or lightheadedness?
So dizziness and lightheadedness is actually very much associated with Parkinson's disease. Generally, it is related to the fact of your blood pressure dropping. So when you're looking at moving safely around the house, the biggest thing, honestly, is to treat it. Make sure that you have it assessed, both the sitting and standing blood pressures assessed. Make sure that you are getting in enough fluid. even the slightest amount of dehydration can cause significant amount of dizziness and lightheadedness and even fainting. So try and make sure that you are getting in your fluid, that you are possibly increasing your salt if your blood pressure is not high, considering compression stockings to bring up your blood pressure. Get it assessed with your movement disorder specialist or their team or your family doctor to make sure on that. There are some medications that may help. Treating it is actually more important than anything else. But if you are walking around your house and you are dizzy, please sit down. I don't care where you are, sit down is much safer than falling down.
Thank you. We also have a fact sheet on orthostatic hypotension or that drop in blood pressure. So I'll make sure that we include that in our follow-up emails so that people can learn how to manage their blood pressure issues if they have Parkinson's. The next question is, someone says, I can cover the daytime, but my partner gets up during the night while I'm sleeping. Any ideas for keeping them safe at night?
Michelle, do you want to get that?
I guess it would depend what they were doing unsafely. So whether if it's wandering, for example, you're worried that they're going to wander around the house or they're going to leave the house, then you would probably want to do some of those things that Kelly had mentioned around the technology. There's lots of good options for that. I've had other people that just really kind of make it impossible to do anything unsafe during the night, right? So that the spouse can get as much sleep as possible. So that might be putting up, I've seen different kind of gates or doors in new spots that maybe weren't there before, just so that we kind of stop, say at the end of the hallway and aren't walking around the whole house. Other times I've had people, put the commode at the bedside because maybe that's what their spouse is doing. They're looking for the bathroom and then they're waking up and having to go help them and then no one can get back to sleep, right? So it kind of depends on the reason they're getting up and moving around, but adding more equipment, adding some technology to alert us when they're getting up, if possible, putting up blocks so they can't get as far would be sort of the top things I would suggest. I would assume it might be a little bit more of a specific question that might need a more specific example or answer at some point.
Okay.
If I might add, I'm sorry, that maybe consider talking to your physician about why the nights and days are mixed up and finding a way to actually have them sleep at night and not during the day.
That's a really good idea. Thank you. Next question is, how do support services for home care, especially night care, vary across Canada?
It varies a lot. It varies a lot within even our province in terms of what different home care. In Manitoba, we're split up kind of by community area, and even within community area, night support is different than other community areas. So that would be probably a specific question that would have to go to either a local home care case coordinator or whoever would help you coordinate that. I mean, of course, you could hire privately, but that comes with quite the costs. So in terms of just publicly funded home care, it varies just within our city, never mind across the country.
Right, great, thank you. So the next question is about dementia, and I'm pretty sure I know what you're going to say. But someone says a family member is living with Parkinson's and they're having delusions and hallucinations and they can barely walk. They insist that they're able to drive. Are they?
No. That's the easiest answer I can give, but the reality is that when you're having hallucinations, how do you know that that little girl in the road is actually a little girl in the road or a hallucination? You don't want to assume it's a hallucination and hit somebody. You also don't want to assume that it is not real and stop abruptly and then get rear-ended. There's a huge safety concern when you're having delusions and hallucinations. So driving should be not happening any person who is hallucinating. So I had one person who was driving and had a dog show up on their lap that covered their view entirely, hallucinating wise, and they had to stop entirely. So it can be quite dangerous. So the best answer is no. I'm sorry.
Right. And we do have a book on driving with Parkinson's, and we'll make sure that the link is included for that as well. Just moving forward, we're still getting some comments. Michelle, when you answer, if you could just lean in a bit more and speak up a bit so we can make sure we can all hear you. The next question is how to make the staircases safe. Do you recommend installation of an elevator?
I mean, an elevator would be amazing if you had space for it, for sure. Most homes can't accommodate an elevator. So there's the chair lifts where you put those on your stairs and you can sit down and push a button and it lifts you to the top or bottom of the stairs. If it's an inside staircase, for example, an elevator would probably be an expensive specific option, but sure, that could work for some people depending on the situation.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. Someone else says that they have no bus transportation where they live. Do you have any ideas how they can manage getting around?
I mean, it's hard depending on, for sure, the town or city you live in. I know some cities have rideshare programs or volunteers who will drive seniors to places where busing isn't an option. Taxis for seniors. Transit Plus is available within Manitoba. That probably wouldn't be an option if busing isn't available where you are. Yeah, I think that would be pretty specific to where you live, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Great. I know that exercise is key to staying well enough to be able to age in place. Someone's asking, how can they motivate their partner to exercise when they have a really strong fear of falling?
Fear of falling is a really real thing. It can be very debilitating for a lot of people. When you're looking at the fear of falling, and we know very well how important exercise is, consider ways to make it safe. So we're doing seated exercises. You can do walking with Nordic poles, like the ski poles and that type of thing, allowing for balance kind of things. Consider talking to the physiotherapist and gait aids such as a walker that might be helpful in that situation. Find ways to exercise that is safe. As I said, seated in a pool, different things like that, upper body exercises, using a recumbent bike, something like that. Motivation for it is difficult, especially when fear is involved. But a lot of the times it's just a matter of this is scheduled, this is what we're doing, so join me in doing it. A lot of the times if you do it with them, they're easier to motivate them instead of them doing it on their own. Try looking at groups that manage and run group things such as seated exercises, things like that.
Thank you. Someone has asked if you could address the emotional factors such as feeling helpless or hopeless if they are having to start using or are already using assistive devices.
In many ways, that feeling of hopelessness and helplessness is is honestly a little bit false, because the reality is that these assisted devices maintains that independence. These assisted devices is what helps you stay independent. Being without them is what's hopeless and helpless, because you can fall, you can get hurt, you can not get out of bed very easily, you put more stress on your care partner, whatever that might be. So honestly, it's the fact of feeling hopeless because you need them is relatively false, because using them will actually increase and improve your independence.
Right. Thank you. So we've also had a few people asking questions about they live in either urban areas where there isn't a clinical resource nurse like you who can help advise people between appointments, or they're just rurally or in a different province where there aren't such. Do you have any recommendations for someone who is either waiting between appointments if they have questions? Other than, of course, Parkinson Canada, we've got great resources, but do you have any other suggestions how people can either access or start the process to access either movement disorder specialists or nurses where they live?
Look into what you actually have in your province. Some provinces have a really good movement disorder clinic that has full range of allied health professionals, such as a clinical resource nurse. Look into that part and then consider talking to your family doctor to get a referral to that movement disorder clinic. Generally, most of them need a referral to the clinic and to start seeing that movement disorder specialist prior to getting access to the remainder of the team. Where to get the information outside of it, honestly, it's one of those things that you have to look online to try and find different resources. Donna, you mentioned Parkinson Canada, but there's other ones too, such as Parkinson's Foundation, which is out of the States. There's the Davis Phinney Foundation. There's Parkinson UK. They have a lot of different resources. Be careful looking at only anecdotal things, although very helpful. It was great for that one individual, and everybody's so very different. So trying to look into what resources are available for you in your province and movement disorder clinic available to you is important. I'm kind of lucky. I have part of my position paid for by Parkinson Canada, so I actually don't have to wait until you're part of the clinic. I can look after people in the entirety of Manitoba, whether they're part of the clinic or not, but not everybody has that. So get the referral to the clinic, and then almost guaranteed you have access to a nurse in between then.
Great. And I do want to add on that Parkinson Canada's Care Connect team members do have, some of them have nursing experience and social work experience too. And they have an amazing database of the different movement disorder clinics that are, or neurologists that are near you. So if you're looking for help in between, try contacting Parkinson Canada. There's a wealth of information there. Well, that's all the time we have for questions. So thank you so much, Michelle and Kelly, for joining us today to discuss aging in place with Parkinson's. You've given us a lot to think about in terms of decision-making, possible changes to living spaces, and resources that we can tap into if we choose to age in place. If anyone wants to learn more, please feel free to contact our Care Connect team at 1-888-664-1974. or email support@parkinson.ca. And if you don't have a chance to write that down, it is going to be in our follow-up email. So watch your email inboxes for that email. That's going to include the link to a recording of the webinar and the resources that were mentioned today. You are invited to join us for our next webinar, which is going to be a virtual wellness expo on Wednesday, September 25th from 2 until 3:15 p.m. Eastern. This is going to be an interactive event where everyone's going to have the opportunity to learn about wellness programs of your choice and maybe even try them out. This is going to be our third year hosting a wellness expo, and we always hear from attendees afterwards about how much they loved the experience. So we hope you'll join us too. Watch your email inboxes for more details and a registration link early in the month. Lastly, when this webinar closes, please take a moment to fill out our short survey. It helps us plan programming that's relevant to you. And finally, on behalf of all of us at Parkinson Canada, I want to thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Hope to see you in September.